Mr. Wall, that's the issue, isn't it? Which is, until Congress investigates, A, it doesn't have a chance to determine what might be valid, and B, we don't have a chance then to look at an actual law and say it may or may not be valid. You're asking a court, in the guise of a heightened review standard, to speculate as to legislation that's not in effect yet. But I want to go back to the subpoenas at issue and their breadth. You note that the Intelligence Committee goes back 10 years, but I think it's fairly common knowledge that Mr. Trump, before he was president, was thinking about running for president for a very long period of time. Why is it that Congress can't believe that looking at long-standing relationships and how those relationships changed or didn't change is important to knowing what undue influence might be occurring?
Justice Sotomayor, if it wants to do that, our submission is just a fairly modest one. It needs to do more than wave its hands about general purposes and say that the president would be a useful case study for prospective and generally applicable laws. Again, I'm not denying.
Mr. Wall, in what other setting does any investigative body have to do more than what was done here?
I would point to the prosecutor in Nixon.
For private records.
Well, this particular question hasn't come up to the court before in a constitutional context. But in Nixon, of course, the prosecutor had to show demonstrated specific need. In the Senate Select Committee case, the Congressional Committee had to show...
Please, I don't want you to go to executive privilege cases. I want you to go to papers that indisputably have nothing to do with Mr. Trump while he was a private person. They're not asking for these records post-being president. They're asking for these records pre-being president.
I think that makes the problem worse, not better, Justice Sotomayor. They're targeting the personal life of the president before he was a candidate for office. That raises, granted, somewhat different, but deeply troubling and equally problematic constitutional concerns.